Hello, everyone. We will get started shortly here. Okay, as people are starting to come in, everyone is being muted, although this is being recorded, so we will be able to share it with other people that were not able to join us today. We have a really good attendance, so we're really excited to hear everything that Hans has to share with us. I know, Hans, you think that's funny, but you have some really good history.
You're setting a high bar.
Well, and so have you with all of your events that you've had. So, well, I think to be respectful for everyone, I think that we'll just go ahead and get started. Thank you, everyone, for joining us today. The primary focus is all about the voices from the community. And what's nice to share with you is there's not going to be an online demonstration. There's not going to be multiple slides to go through. We're actually just going to have a very comfortable conversation about Hans and his journey. And with that said, let's just go ahead and get started with our agenda. And also, like I had mentioned earlier, if you didn't hear this, that we are going to be recording this. It will be shared, and I think that you'll definitely want to share it with your peers at a later time if they were not able to join us. So make sure that no one else is waiting in the waiting room, and it doesn't look like they are. So let's just go ahead and go to the next slide. And so this is our agenda. And we wanted to start out with introductions. And so some of you may know me and some of you may not know me, but my name is Lauren Cavaney, and I'm the president and co-founder of Work Out Loud. And I'm happy to share with you that this is our 10th year, although I have been working with online communities for 20 years. And with that said, I also was involved with a company called, or an organization called Startup Grind. What Startup Grind is, it's a global organization that helps startup companies in the software industry. And what's nice is when I was a director for 4 years, I was able to interview very successful people here in the Twin Cities, as I am in Minneapolis, Minnesota. And we learned a lot about what was successful, what brought them to their success, their highs, their lows, and sharing that information and doing kind of what we're doing today with, like I'm doing with Hans. He has had a tremendous amount of success, and I'm really excited to have him join us today. And as you can see on the agenda, instead of me saying how amazing he is, I would like for you to hear it from the horse's mouth. So,
Well,
Hans, please introduce yourself.
yeah, thank you, Lauren, and welcome everyone. Thank you for joining, taking time out of your day. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Hans Mueller. I am a senior director at Infor, which is an ERP software company, and I have been with the company for almost 19 years. Prior to that, I was a customer of one of the companies that Infor acquired along the way, Lawson Software, and I worked at Friendly Ice Cream as a system administrator for almost 10 years. And so that's my background. I'm based in Massachusetts, out of just outside of Amherst, Massachusetts, where UMass Amherst is. And I've been here for the majority of my life. And I have a wife, two kids, two boys who are um, 14 and 11, freshmen in high school, and a sixth grader that keep us very busy.
So, I mean, with that said, you obviously have conquered life work balance. I mean, I've met your wife. She's wonderful. I've seen pictures of your kids. I see the activities that you do, but I also see that you definitely have been a thought leader in the industry. And it's interesting that you said that you were at Friendly's, and that's where I met you 20 years ago. I actually started at a company called Startup Grind, I mean, not Startup Grind, Digital Concourse at that time. And we helped with user groups. And that's where I met Hans, who was actually not only a customer, but he was also on the board of the Northeast regional user group. At that time, it was Lawson Software. And but not only that, he was also on the global group. And so it was his responsibility to be the liaison between the users, other known as his peers, and also Infor, or actually it was Lawson and then became Infor. And so what was nice was he truly understood the concept of having a voice for the community, because it wasn't only his voice, but it was also his peers and the people that look up to him to bring the messages back to Infor so they could be able to implement and improve and expand, their products, their software. And so what's interesting, Hans, is because you were on the global user group at that time, what were some of the challenges that you think that the user groups were dealing with, and how do you think they overcame them and it turned into a very positive situation?
Yeah, so I'll even maybe jump a little bit before that.
That'd be great.
Before I even joined um, any of the user groups, I was, like I said, I was a system administrator, I was a Lawson administrator. I had been kind of thrust into the role unexpectedly due to someone leaving Friendlies, and they had a need. And at that time, the internet was in its infancy. You were looking at documentation. You were kind of siloed in how you worked with others, and so the user groups were where you could actually meet other people who were having the same challenges, having the same successes, talk about what they were doing with the software, where you could learn things and network. So that's really why I got into it, was I had a desperate need to learn. And we had some folks, luckily, at the organization who were already part of the user group. We had an in, right? And so then that kind of took off. If anybody knows me, I'm a bit outspoken. I'm not shy.
No.
Going to these regional user group meetings and talking with others came naturally to me, but it doesn't come naturally for everyone. Like, my wife is a complete introvert. She's also worked with the software, gone to some of these user group meetings, and for her, she was a fly on the wall in the back of the room. And that's how a lot of people are, right? They just want to listen. They want to maybe glean something. And I think that there's a place for all of that. But as we progressed, um, my desire at the beginning to personally learn and get better and more knowledgeable about the software that I had to maintain turned into being an advocate for other users and other companies. And so, like Loring said, I went from being on the Northeast User Group Regional Board to being part of what was called the Global User Group for Lawson Software. And immediately stepping into that room with my peers, you could tell that there was a major shift. No longer were you expected to talk about your own um, problems and your own needs. You were now representing everybody else. And so we actually had a colleague who was on the board, and we used to, ingest, talk about him because he was very personal about everything. Everything came back to the problems at their company, or the issues and challenges at their company. And he wasn't a great representative for others. And it stood out. Like, you could immediately tell, the difference between those that did it well and those that didn't. But yeah, it was a fantastic experience, and it got me a lot of exposure, not only with other companies and other users, but also with folks like Loring and her organization, and folks, at Lawson at the time, who, could help solve problems down the road. So, yeah.
Well, and I think it was fun to see when someone would raise their hand and say, I have a challenge with this. And then someone else, and this is when we were all face to face, and then someone else would say, oh, well, you know what? I actually just went through that, and this is how I solved it. And then they would be like, okay, let's talk more. Well, what's really awesome about online communities is the conversation doesn't have to end right then and there when you're face to face. It can continue the conversation even after the conference or the meeting or whatever it may be. And so you're constantly building your network, and you're building business relationships. And of course, there's also great opportunities where I have seen many people go from one organization to the other. And as a prime example, here's Hans. He was at Friendlies, he was a customer, and now he's representing Infor But what's great is he actually was on the other side. And so I think that's where community becomes so strong, combining all this brain power and being able to have a voice. And that's why we're doing this series, this initiative, to the voices of the community. So everyone has an opportunity to have a voice and realize that we're all here, to help each other, sincerely help each other. And it was interesting because of when I was talking to Hans a few days ago, he was mentioning, way back when community started online, it was interesting because people were afraid to ask a question online because it is ink on the internet and it doesn't go away necessarily, especially in communities. And so he shared with me that, back then it was a little more timid, but now people are getting so much more comfortable, especially with the whole COVID thing that was taking place. The only way to communicate with each other was online. So, Hans, I just wanted to find out from you, because you were friendlies and now you're in for, where's in for going with their community outreach and how are their customers benefiting? I know you've got a great program that has been happening, and you've had some great outcomes. Do you want to talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, that's and it really came from the fact that so even with online communities, like you said, I mean, they were a great add-on to those in-person user groups, but they didn't fully replace that experience. And we weren't good enough. I don't think I personally wasn't good enough to understand the power of an online community until we reached a point in 2016 and 2017 when Infor launched a brand new product that was going to become one of our flagship products. And we went from uh, a regionally based, geographically based user group, in-person user group world to now we have customers on this platform that
Hmm.
they're not in the same city. They're not even in the same state. They're not even in the same country. And so, how do we get those folks to share their experiences, their challenges in the same way that we used to do in the room, right? And so we had this huge challenge in front of us, and we also had the opportunity to really change the paradigm of how folks interact, how they learn. And so we set out creating what has now become Innovation Insights. It's the largest and most attended webinar series in Inforce history. We started it 6 years ago as part of the financials and supply management rollout, and the purpose was, to serve the community, to serve customers that in a diverse geographical locations. And so we started small. We invited those customers that were live, and we had about 30 or so at the time. And we just met monthly and we started talking about, what are your challenges? What are your questions? What do you want to learn more about? Now that you're up on the system, what what else do you want to take advantage of, right? What else are we doing that, maybe we want your feedback on and influence on? And so it grew and it grew quickly. And that's one of the nice things about online communities is they can take off very, very fast. And so we went from, 30 customers attending a month to now 6 years later, we run weekly sessions.
Yeah,
They're fully interactive, so there's full access to chat and Q&A, and people can come off of mute and converse and ask questions. We have presentations, like I said, every week. We take topics from the audience so that we can populate future topics down the road. And it's just become a massive area of sharing. And we invite customers, we invite fellow Inforians, we invite partners. So it's anybody in the ecosystem is welcome to attend. And now we average between 500 and 600 people every week. So yeah,
that is
it's
fantastic.
yeah.
Well, I
I
think
was going to
what's cool is
say,
you've
oh, go
created
ahead.
a cadence. You've created a cadence. You've created, they're expecting it. They're looking forward to it because I did see it was month to month. And we also support, on our community calendar that everyone is well aware of this program. But what's great is it's week to week and the numbers are still there. Sometimes it dwindles when you open it up even more so. But so congratulations for that. It's fantastic.
Well, it also has become so it's funny because it's become I think the regularity of and the common place to go has is what has made it a success, right? People just
Hmm.
know every Wednesday at noon Eastern, I fire up Teams and it doesn't matter what else I'm doing. And I've had so many customers tell me, we just put it on in the background, right? We put it on in the background, even if we have topics that range different products within the portfolio. And even if we don't run that product, we still join and we still listen. And if something catches our attention or something interests us, volume pops up, but I multitask during it or I have some eat my lunch during it or whatever. We hear all those stories, but they all come, which is great. It's fantastic. It really is. And I would love for it to be even bigger, honestly. There's a huge untapped portion of our customer base that still is not yet regularly attending. And we're working, every day to make that number go down, right? But we would, yeah, we definitely would love to grow it. And so this year we were actually branching out to other products within Infor's portfolio. So we've started up one for our M3 customers, which are all, is another product line. And we have two others that are waiting in the wings to get started in the April and May timeframe. So we'll have four of these running concurrently so that, that's how we're growing it.
That's fantastic. So I know right now the hot topic is AI. And I know how some people like it, some people don't like it. Some people find it offensive. Some people find it very helpful with their jobs. So I just would like to hear what your input is. And something I just want to share with you really quickly was our last meeting that we had with Voices from the Community was Dave Rapaz. And it was interesting, his insight. And he actually is also an Infor employee, but he focuses on the IBMI space. And his input was, I continue want I continuing I'm continuing to want to have personal relationships and conversations, not with a robot, but with a person. Although AI is very helpful if there already has been a discovery and it has been documented and you can go find that information, as soon as possible. So I mean, what are your thoughts on that, Hans?
I guess I'm going to
Or
say
what are
that
you hearing?
I fully agree with Dave on that. I want look at there is I AI is everywhere, right? I mean, we're seeing it. We're trying to tap into it with our own software needs. We use
So
it
are
in our
we.
day-to-day lives, right?
Yeah.
There are tremendous benefits that can be gleaned. I actually use it as part of each one of the sessions that I run because it can summarize the meeting, it can provide notes, it can provide action items, right? Just out of the
Yeah.
box without me doing anything. And so that's a tremendous benefit. But where I think AI really would help in communities and community building is is kind of what you alluded to is I'm looking lots of times I'm not going out to a community, I'm going out to the ecosystem looking for an answer, right? I have a challenge or I have a question and I just want the answer. I don't want to have to spend, 20 minutes searching for it. I don't want to have to spend, engage with 17 other people to get to the right person. So if AI can help me, navigate a community forum that's got a bunch of entries and a bunch of people participating and it's live and thriving and there's all this activity and I can navigate that quickly with AI, perfect, right? Then
Hmm.
if I want to ask and if the answer is not out there, maybe it can take me 50% of the way, take me to the right forum, take me to the right discussion thread, right? And then I can pick it up from there. But yeah, I don't ever want to see it um, replace this kind of interaction, personal interactions. It there's got to be there's so much benefit that comes from the personal interaction. We just, just selfishly, we just had a, a team meeting last week in Alpharetta, Georgia, and these things happen very infrequently nowadays, it seems, where you get together in a room and you actually sit down with your team members. And but you get more done in 2 days than you've gotten done in 2 months, right? And so that personal interaction is what really makes the community exciting to be a part of. But if it
Mm-hmm.
can help with the easy answers, that's perfect. That's what I want to see it too.
So do you think that, do you believe that communities will become primarily focused in on community platforms to increase their relationships, building knowledge, meeting people before you even meet them in person?
Oh yes, yes. So even when I was on the user group board, um, one of the things that I found, so 20 years ago, I found, that there was old chat rooms that we had, right? The precursors to, really online communities. And there were people that you gravitated towards, hey, this guy's really technical. He's personable. He answers a bunch of my questions. I answer a bunch of his questions, whatever. When we went to events, in-person events, to be able to catch up
Mhm.
with that person and meet them face to face and talk. I mean, it forged relationships that I never would have forged, if I just showed up at the meeting. I might not have ever talked to that person. Right. But since we knew each other online, once we got there, it was, we could continue the conversation. There were so many of those little meetups that were informally done, like, hey, this group, let's get together and meet at, the St. Paul Hotel bar and, at, this night. And now you have this like group of comrades in arms, right? That you're affiliated with, that have been solving each other's problems, so on and so forth. I have a funny little story. So in 2022, no, 2002, excuse me, I was in a car accident, and I broke my
Oh,
leg, and so I was in the hospital for a week. And
mhm.
one of the people who I worked with, not I didn't work with, but I knew from online communities and from those type of things, worked for that healthcare center. And
Wow.
as when she, and when this was prior to the days of HIPAA, right? She saw, or found out, through whatever, she saw that I was in the hospital. She showed up with her books, because she was a junior sysadmin who wasn't as, seasoned. She showed up with her books and she's like knocked on my hospital room door and she's like, came in, introduced herself, and we had chat sessions all throughout the week. I wasn't going anywhere, so but that never would have happened, right? Otherwise, right? Outside of the community
Mhm.
being involvement. So yeah,
Well, it is
there's
amazing how everything does evolve.
yes,
You know,
yeah,
I mean, again, going back 20 years ago, I mean, all the different user group board members that have come and gone, and the opportunities that have continued to arise because someone would say, "Oh, you're leaving the board? Well, I know of somebody in my company that would love to get on the board." And they were the ones that implemented, whatever it may be. And so it's great to hear that there are things that do happen. You may not know at that time, but then if you continue to going forward, communicating online, as well as meeting people in person, the dots start to connect. And it's amazing how, I mean, what's that saying about Kevin Bacon? How we're all
Sixth
related
Street,
and
yeah,
yes, yes, yes,
yeah.
yes. So I just think it is just really exciting to see people such as yourself continue to go down the path of you're not only responsible for a career that supports your family, and but it also um, you have a passion for solving and sharing. And I think when you surround yourself with people that are successful, I think it starts to bleed onto other people, and then they want to do the exact same thing. And so that's why I think that online communities, as well as in-person meetings, continue to grow the communities. And that's why we're seeing, these online communities continuing to grow, especially with new people. Because yes, there's acquisitions, and yes, people come and go. But what's nice to see is, for instance, like Work Out Loud, our communities continue to grow. And it's not necessarily Work Out Loud that's telling them to come in. It's the peers within the community that trust this platform, where this is a place where they can reach out to other people just like them. And if they can't find somebody, there will be somebody else that can come to them and help them. So we give them the liberty to ask a question freely. So Hans, is there anything that you've seen that has really just exploded in the last 10 years with technology when it comes to communication? I know it's kind of a
Um,
big question there.
yeah, it is a big question, right? I think it's the proliferance of email and different apps, to have instant communication between individuals across the globe, I think is just it's there's you talk about platforms, right? And Work Out Loud's
Uh-huh.
a great platform. There's other community platforms that folks interact with. It doesn't have to be necessarily with around software but you have like things like LinkedIn, you have things like, Facebook, you have things like I'm trying to think of some others, but anyway, you have these different platforms and you have all these different communities that you are actually part of, right? I mean, um, a very active, and I'm sure many of you do too, in your local towns, right? You have a community, um, online community that's based, like ours is like on Facebook, but that it's all about the community, right? Of the little town that I live in, right? And so anything that's going on, anything that somebody's annoyed about, anything that somebody's jazzed up about, something that's happening, something that's, changing, all of those things are just pushed to you as part of that community. And you actually you wonder how we all got it done before, right? How did you stay
Right.
abreast of all of that before, when all that you had at your disposal was the weekly newspaper that came out or whatever, or the daily, so it's it's kind of mind-boggling how much access to information and how many different platforms that we engage with on a daily basis, that and you could make the argument that every single one of those is a new and different community that you're participating in, just for different reasons, right? And
Right.
um and I just kind of think about my children and where they're at. And for example, right, we have I don't think my son has ever looked at a paper manual for anything that he has ever owned, right? So he's
Right.
an active skier. He is a huge soccer player. He does all of these things online, and he takes part in communities that I don't even know that he takes part in, which is probably bad as a parent, but it's reality, but he's got like soccer communities and skiing communities, and he's back and forth with people about, which skis to have under which conditions and where's the best, natural snow falling in, within a 2 hour area. And I mean, but you get all of this information,
Hmm.
through all these different sources, and you don't even know that you're participating in these communities at the time. I mean, you don't think of it that way, but that's life
Right.
now. Yeah.
Well, and I think the majority of our networking was all in person. It was going to these annual conferences and all these, and we were able to get away, and there was a budget that would allow us to do it. But now, with a tremendous amount of restraints, as well as technology changing, you no longer need to spend or have a very large budget to go to an annual conference, when you can actually just get the answer right on an online community. I mean, on in person, hands down, is definitely the best way. although unfortunately there sometimes is some limitations, but great sessions like what Hans holds each week, they still have an opportunity to expand on their knowledge, even if their organization does not have the budget for whatever reason, if they're implementing something from Infor or they're working with something. So that's where I think it's really awesome to have an online community as well as in-person meetings. So you're able to leverage all the information. Like I had heard also from Dave Rapaz, I'm using him as an example because
Mm.
he was my last meeting, and I'm going to be using you, Hans, for my next one as examples. But he was sharing with me that there was a gentleman that was down in the basement of a very well-known company working really hard. He had so much knowledge. He had more knowledge than his salesperson did because he actually lived through it day in and day out. But he was able to share that information online, but he was not able to get away. So it's just kind of a nice, I think, caveat to have online as well as in person and be able to take advantage of what you're able to share information, receive information, and just collectively, all raise above. So I would like to ask, does anyone have any questions? I know we're pretty much coming to the end. Does anyone have any questions for Hans that you can think of?
While,
And
while we're
if
while we're waiting
yes,
on that,
please.
oh, there's one. Oh,
Okay. Let's see here.
uh,
Oh, he has to drop for another meeting. But
okay.
great story. Great to hear.
Yeah.
That's excellent. That's what this is all about. It's supposed to be a real quick snippet of the value of community. And once again, Hans, thank you so much for joining us. I really appreciate the time that you invested in your 30 years of software that I'm aware of, as well
Mhm.
as your journey. And feel free to reach out to him or reach out to me if you have any questions. And I think with that said, I can actually just go to my last slide, which will then just share with you if you have any questions. This is my email address. If anyone would like to be a guest on Community from Voices or Voices from the Community, I would be more than happy to include you in and hear what you have to say. And Hans, again, thank you for utilizing and working with Work Out Loud. I really appreciate your support as we are a partner with Infor as well, and continue to help Hans grow his network when we can, as well as Infor.
Oh,
Any other
yeah,
questions?
I just have thank you very much for having me on. It was a great opportunity. When you approached me, I was a little scared, of course. Like even though I talk every week, I'm like, oh, she's
Little
gonna
old
interview
me.
me now. Um, but but no, I mean we've had, like you said, we've known each other for a long time. Work Out Loud is a great partner. One of the things I really like about and Work Out Loud is a perfect example of this, right? Is each company out there, each organization has their own community, and that's great, but that's not the end all be all, right? You need independent third party communities. A lot of folks, especially in the software industry, would rather share on an independent platform than share on particularly on our platform, because it's they see less bias maybe, or it's just more freedom, more independence, right? And and so I know a lot of my colleagues participate in outside forums, which help our customers. I try and do it as much as possible. And so yeah, it's been a great experience, and I hope we can continue to, help each other grow.
Absolutely, absolutely. And if you are aware of any user groups that are in the Infor, definitely go out there and be in search of. If you are not aware, and if you are aware, definitely participate. They would love to have you there as well as participate online. So, with that said, Hans, thank you very much. I really appreciate it. And have a wonderful day, everyone. I apologize for going over a couple minutes, but I think it was worth it.
Thank you
So
all.
have a wonderful day, you guys. Thank you. Bye bye.